No surprises over our lead story tonight. Once again, it's all about the weather.
In many places, temperatures have stayed stubbornly below zero, and that's led to big problems. In Essex, 350 schools were forced to close. That's more than half the total. And in the same county, a councillor has admitted the gritting wasn't good enough. In Bedfordshire, operations were cancelled at the Luton and Dunstable Hospital after a power cut. But first, have a look at these pictures. This is a back lane at Kensworth near Dunstable this morning. The driver was forced to abandon his car and the road was closed for everybody else as well. And in Corby, frozen pipes at St Patrick's Primary School caused damage which could cost £100,000 to repair.
Torrential water flooding through from the roof all the way through to the ground floor, so we had to get emergency plumbers out, local firm that we knew, which was great, and Anglia Water, and unfortunately the damage has been really extensive.
So, schools and hospitals to come, but first the roads. Felicity Simper has been out on patrol with the police in Essex.
An icy morning and gridlock on the M25. Meanwhile in Colchester, Sergeant Andy Swan and his colleague are heading out onto the A12.
Well, I'm hopeful that the main roads are going to remain clear. They've all been well gritted. There's a reasonable amount of traffic.
They're heading south.
It's Tango Tango 91. We'll go and give Tango Tango 92 a hand to close the off-slip.
A jackknife lorry on the M25 means there's long tailbacks heading towards the A12.
We're going to close the off-slip from Junction 11 onto the roundabout, so that all the traffic that would normally go up onto the M25 is going to be pushed down towards London.
On the scene, they close the lane, but that doesn't stop some people still driving through.
They really do not have the common sense they were born with.
People always try and ask if they can get through, but they don't realise you're actually closing the lane for a reason, so we have to politely tell them no, they're going to have to find an alternate route.
Back on the road, a group of lorries parked on the side of the carriageway are causing concern.
Oh, you're all right.
One's broken down and the other drivers are asleep, or at least they were.
Yeah, I have to say, it's not often that you see a man in just his underpants. Not in this weather, anyway.
Once everyone's dressed, the lorries jump-started and moved on.
He's got his engine running now, so he's going to go up to the proper lay-by and continue his break up there.
Despite the weather, it's been a relatively quiet day.
Quite a few people have probably decided to sort of only make necessary journeys, ones that they really need to do.
But the journey the police make day in, day out ensures others are kept safe. Felicity Simper, BBC Look East.
So how did the gritters do in Essex? Not well enough, says the councillor responsible. Norman Hume is at his home in Danbury now. Mr Hume, you've admitted that it didn't go very well yesterday. Why is that?
Well, it certainly wasn't because our gritters didn't do their job. They were out 3 times preceding the snowfall, but unfortunately the effects were still bad, and self-evidently there were huge problems in parts of the county, particularly in the south. But I do want to restate, it's not because our gritters didn't do their job.
Several viewers have actually got in touch with us to say that their roads weren't gritted in Essex and they're very unhappy. You launched the whole gritting service to great fanfare and media coverage. You personally told us last week you were confident it would all be OK. This is quite embarrassing, really, isn't it?
Well, I don't feel embarrassed. I mean, it's the weather, you know. It is the weather. We do grit 40% of our network, the main routes, and as you will see today, they're working very effectively. The first day, there were problems. It was to do with the timing of the snow, the volume of the snow, the behaviour of a small minority of drivers, a number of accidents which blocked roads, a whole string of factors. And of course I admitted there were problems and apologised to users of our network. But our people did absolutely everything by the book, and I'm very proud of the work they did.
You talked about drivers there. Do you think that motorists should take more personal responsibility to equip themselves for the weather?
Well, it's a point that's got to be considered. I mean, on the continent, northern continent, they put on winter tyres at this time of year automatically. We obviously don't do that because we don't normally experience this level of weather. It is something that people could consider, but it's for individuals to decide, not for me to recommend.
Mr. Hume, thank you very much.
Well, away from Essex, power cuts were causing problems. At the Luton and Dunstable Hospital, they had to cancel 100 operations. The details from Faye Southwell.
Full power was back on today, but yesterday the hospital was hit by a power cut. Backup generators kicked in immediately, but one failed. Hospital staff sent home non-urgent cases, and 15 patients needing admission were taken to other hospitals. Today, 100 routine operations had to be cancelled.
There were no risks to any of the patients yesterday. The power supplies were adequate. We were able to keep critical life support systems going. The hospital was warm, it was lit. We had great cooperation from the staff in the hospital, great cooperation from the ambulance service and from staff of other hospitals. And we continue to provide an emergency service, and we hope that by tomorrow we'll be providing a full normal service.
Marsha Antoine and daughter Emelle were among those affected. The 1-year-old needed tests, but she was sent home and told to come back today.
I wasn't concerned at all. They were quite professional about what was happening. They kind of kept us informed about what the plan of action was going to be and what time we would be coming back to the ward today. We left the hospital relatively easy. We were given the right medication, contact telephone numbers, and we returned without any problems either.
Engineers are working to fix the fault and extra generators have been installed. The cancelled operations will be rescheduled. Faye Southwell, BBC Look East, Luton.
Next to schools, most counties were fine, but not Essex. It has 550 schools. Today, only 200 opened. Here's our chief reporter, Kim Riley.
Schools out for winter. The gates closing at St Benedict's College at Colchester. Further south, the snow's deeper. The St John Payne Comprehensive at Chelmsford, all but deserted. Same story at the Boswell School. Ditto Chancellor Park Primary. But at Broomfield Primary, despite the icy road outside, it's business as usual. Most of its 320 children are in school and all 11 teachers present and correct. And the caretaker who drove in from Southend in the early hours has been heroic.
He's obviously been out and done all my routes so that everybody can get across the school playground safely.
It all looks pretty good, actually.
It does, but you can see that obviously the temptation is always to go in the snow itself, wouldn't you?
What do you think of the snow? Isn't it horrible white stuff and you slip in it? No? No! Do you like coming to school in the snow? No!
The head logged on to the BBC Essex website at home at 7 o'clock this morning for the latest travel information. She called 3 senior members of staff in Chelmsford, Braintree and Colchester to check on conditions there. She can alert parents by text or email, but by 8 o'clock she'd made the decision not to join the long list of closures.
We will always do our best to open the school. School's important, children should be at school. However, we won't put anybody in any danger or any risk in terms of health and safety. Particularly, I think, for our school, we've got a number of parents who work for emergency services, who are employed down at the hospital at Broomfield. If we don't open, they can't go to work because they've got to look after their children, obviously, and therefore, you know, we're impacting on other services. So I think it's important that we do our best to open the school.
Everyone here's come prepared for hostile weather, and this being Welly Wednesday, the walk to the local church went ahead. At Broomfield Primary, they're made of stern stuff. Kim Riley, BBC Look East, Essex.
And for all the latest information on schools and travel, remember to tune in to your local radio station. Ray Clark was presenting the breakfast programme for BBC Essex this morning.
It was horrendously busy. Shall we start with the schools? 350 closures in Essex. You wake up and you think, is everybody else going to work? Am I the only person that's thinking it's snowy outside, it's too cold, I can't possibly drive a car along that road?
Well, still to come tonight, a great health and safety